Greetings and welcome back to my channel. I want to bring you another installment of what is going on in your spiritual neck of the woods. This week's episode is going to deal with the topic of mother and father wounds, right? I've been receiving hits on this topic um, for a few days now, and I've been sitting with it, just trying to decipher the codes and the messages that I would have been receiving. But the main thing is that take what resonates and leave the rest. What I tend to say here on this channel is you will know that it resonates because you'll feel it in your heart space. If it fills your ego cup, to the one is not resonating. But this message is for a select group of individuals who have the or with the spiritual eyes and even the clairs to see someone from a mile away that has unaddressed and unresolved mother and father wounds, right? And so the hit that I received is that people are either refusing or choosing not to do the shadow work to clear this out, right? To mend those wounds, to clean them and bandage them up and allow for them to heal. It's almost as though they leave the womb as is and it becomes infected, never really healing or scabbing. And if it is scabbing, they tend to pick at it and not necessarily give time for it to heal. But with the veil being so thin, the thing is, those with the spiritual eyes can see, smell, and even taste someone with, you know, this particular type of wound. Or this can even be people with the clairs that pick up on the energy. They hear it, they feel it, you know, they just have the ability to see through people and know that this individual could potentially be suffering from a mother or father wound, right? So with the hit I received, right, you may be experiencing individuals that use a lot of what I call blanket blaming and snide generalizations regarding the opposite sex, right? And so, an example of this would be where they start a sentence or a complaint or either a feedback. They tend to utilize these words in some form or fashion, right? These women or these men, right? And I'm sure many of you may have experienced this or been around individuals that tend to blanket blame the opposite sex regarding something that they may not be pleased with or maybe something they may have experienced. But with that hit, I went deeper into that download, and what I received was that many of these individuals, and not all, but many of these individuals have experienced their first pain or suffering or trauma at the helms of a parent, be it their mother or their father, right? And that trauma was never really addressed in the household. And it made for that individual to form certain views on the opposite sex, right? And so if it's a little girl, with her first love being her father, if she had experienced trauma at the helms of him, his hands, what have you, she would view any man coming after that in that light, right? And the same goes for the little boy with his mother. Now, this isn't necessarily right because by painting everyone with a broad stick or general or just creating just these generalized categories of the sexes, it doesn't leave any room for differences, variations, uniqueness, personalities. It doesn't leave any room for that. It just sweeps everyone into the same framework of their mother or their father. And you see it transcend with them into their teenagehood and into their adulthood and how they would interact with the opposite sex, right? But for those of you who this message is for, you may be you may have experienced this, or you may have encountered individuals that usually just tend to just throw this out there. These people could be coworkers, family, or friends. But the thing is, a lot of us walking this earth have experienced some form of trauma, or pain at the helms of our parents. I think it's actually very rare that you would find an individual who doesn't have a mother or father womb. But here is where the distinction lies with the collective that this message is for. The thing is, there is a group, the selected group, which I'm referring to for this particular message. You would have taken the time to look, well, first identify that you have this wound, and you would have begin the work, the shadow work of clearing this out and addressing those emotions that are associated with that wound, as well as beginning the process of letting go of the experience and just taking it as an experience that you would have had, but not letting or allowing that experience to completely tailor who you are and how you view things, right? You will put in the effort and you put in the time. And that's not to say that you don't have encounters or experiences that would trigger these wounds. You're only human. And so it's to be expected, rather, that you may have instances where you're triggered. But the difference between the two groups, for those that this would resonate with versus those that it won't resonate with, is that is the way you react when triggered, right? It's the way you react. And the download that I received is that you react to those individuals that project onto you. You react to them, not even react, but you respond with grace. And sometimes grace would mean distancing yourself so that you could limit the surface area of where their projectile vomit is going to land, right? So you distance yourself because it is not your responsibility to endure that level of uncomfortableness that that person may be holding on to, right? And so for many of you, you may be noticing that you're not gelling with people as much as you used to because these traumas, these wounds, these are becoming more and more apparent to those with the spiritual eyes to see it. Like I say, you smell it, you taste it, you feel it from a mile away, right? But at the same time, There is something in you that is attracting certain experiences. And what I got from these download is the thing that you ought to learn from these types of individuals is just to know the difference between you and them. You with them you were able to see how far you've come because you may have been someone who blanket blamed and used snide generalizations regarding the opposite sex until you kind of shook out of it and refrained yourself from painting everyone with the same brush. You give people an opportunity to display who they are, to showcase their character before you make a conclusion or come to a consensus as to who they are. So, what I'm hearing is this will help with the exercise of your discernment muscle in navigating people who have not put in the work to heal themselves because you have. You have. And you have every right to dictate and determine who is going to hold space on you, who's going to hold space with you based on their level of healing. And in no means is this coming from a judgmental space. It is coming from a protective mechanism space, right? But balance is going to come in, is what I receive. Balance is going to come in. I just told someone the other day, and they're going to know who they are based on, what I say next. But Valentine's Day was just this past Friday. And so happy Valentine's Day to those out there that celebrate Valentine's Day. But what I said to this individual is that I had seen a line of souls lining up to come down to earth. And their mission was to restore the balance of this planet. Now, there is duality in everything. That is not to say that all souls are coming down to restore balance, but there is a good percentage of them that has seen what is taking place and they want to come down to mend the mistrust that is taking place between the sexes, right? And so don't be afraid to utilize your defense mechanism of creating the distance with those that refuse or choose not to do the shadow work. You're not going to be a target for their projection, right? That's not what you came here for. And so you are not allowing yourself to be that. You are more and then some, right? And so I hope that this episode, this installment, has been helpful and that it is resonated with those that it is meant to resonate from. As always, I will never read out regarding personal messages. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and even share this installment with someone who you think this may be helpful to. Until the next installment, take care. Bye bye.